What the hell did you do? Jack Sullivan's voice cut like a whip, his eyes burning with rage. Lena Jones stood dripping by the pool, her maid's uniform soaked, meaningless after her dive into the icy water. She'd been dusting the Sullivan mansion's silver when she saw Lily, the billionaire's daughter, slip near the pool's edge. Lena sprinted across the stone courtyard, plunging in to grab the sinking girl. Her arms burned as she pulled Lily to safety, but Jack, arriving in a storm of panic, saw only his shivering child. His briefcase hit the ground. His fear turned to fury. "I pay you to watch her," he roared, not seeing the savior, only a servant who failed. Lena stayed silent, her gaze steady. What secrets hide in this cold mansion? Who watches from the shadows? Subscribe, share where you're listening, what time it is, and guess where this tale of betrayal leads. The air in the Sullivan mansion hung heavy with the scent of polished wood and unspoken tension, a sprawling fortress of glass and marble that gleamed under the late afternoon sun, yet felt like a crypt. Lena Jones moved silently through its halls, her black and white uniform a stark contrast to the opulent chandeliers and velvet drapes. Her hands, calloused from years of labor, dusted a silver candelabra with precision, but her dark eyes darted to every corner, catching the faint flicker of a light bulb, the slight misalignment of a picture frame. She'd been here a month, long enough to sense the undercurrents beneath the mansion's pristine surface. Something was off, though she couldn't yet name it. Outside, the pool glittered like a sapphire, its calm surface belying the chaos about to unfold. Lily Sullivan, 8 years old, her auburn curls bouncing, chased a butterfly across the stone courtyard. Her laughter echoed, a rare sound in this sterile place. Lena paused, her cloth stilling, as she watched the girl inch closer to the water's edge. Jack Sullivan, her father, was nowhere in sight, likely buried in his office, a prisoner of his empire. Lena's instincts prickled. She set the candelabra down, her movements deliberate, and stepped toward the glass doors. "Lily, sweetheart, stay back from the pool," Lena called softly, her voice steady but firm. The girl didn't hear, her small hands reaching for the butterfly as it flitted over the water. Lena's heart quickened. She crossed the threshold, her polished shoes clicking on the stone. Then it happened. A slip, a splash, a stifled scream. Lily's tiny form vanished beneath the surface, bubbles rising in her wake. Lena didn't think. She ran, her uniform tearing slightly as she vaulted over a low hedge, her body slicing through the air. The water hit like 1,000 needles, cold and unforgiving, but her eyes locked onto Lily's sinking silhouette. She dove deeper, her lungs burning, and grasped the girl's limp arm. With a surge of strength, Lena kicked upward, breaking the surface with a gasp. She hauled Lily onto the pool's edge, the girl coughing and trembling, her blue eyes wide with fear. "Lily, breathe, you're okay," Lena murmured, kneeling beside her, brushing wet curls from the girl's face. Her breath came in ragged bursts, water dripping from her braids onto the stone. Lily clung to her, small fingers digging into Lena's arm, a silent plea for comfort. Before Lena could say more, a shadow loomed. "What the hell is this?" Jack Sullivan's voice thundered, raw and jagged. His briefcase thudded to the ground. His tailored suit rumpled from a day of deals. His hazel eyes, usually sharp with calculation, were wild with panic as he rushed to Lily, scooping her into his arms. "Baby, are you hurt?" he whispered, his voice breaking as he checked her for injuries. Lena stood, water pooling at her feet, her uniform clinging like a second skin. She opened her mouth to explain, but Jack whirled on her, his face a mask of fury. "You," he barked, his finger jabbing the air. "I pay you to keep her safe. How could you let this happen?" His words stung, each one a lash, his gaze searing with accusation. He didn't see the dive, the rescue, the desperation in Lena's eyes. He saw only a failure. Lena's jaw tightened, but she held her tongue. She'd learned long ago that men like Jack Sullivan, men who built empires, rarely listened in the heat of anger. Her eyes flicked to Lily, still shivering in her father's arms, and she saw the girl's lips quiver, wanting to speak. "It's okay, Lily," Lena said softly, her voice a lifeline. "You're safe now." Jack's head snapped up, his expression darkening. "Safe?" She nearly drowned. You're supposed to watch her, not let her wander into danger. He turned, striding toward the mansion with Lily cradled against him, leaving Lena dripping and dismissed. The glass doors slammed shut behind him, the sound echoing like a gavel. Lena stood alone, the courtyard silent save for the soft lap of the pool. Her hands clenched, then relaxed. She wasn't here to argue or plead. She was here to work, to watch, to notice. And she'd noticed plenty. The flickering lights, the misplaced keys, the strange static on the security monitors late at night. This house, for all its grandeur, was a machine with gears grinding out of sync. Her father, a watchmaker, had taught her to spot the smallest flaws in a mechanism, to listen for the tick that didn't belong. This mansion, this family was no different. She bent to retrieve Jack's forgotten briefcase, her fingers brushing the fine leather. As she straightened, her eyes caught a glint from the poolside, a tiny hairpin, Lily's half hidden under a planter. It hadn't been there yesterday. Lena's brow furrowed. She slipped it into her pocket, her mind already turning. Something was wrong here, and it wasn't just a child's misstep. Inside, Jack sat Lily by the fireplace, wrapping her in a blanket. His hands shook as he dialed the family doctor, his voice low but urgent. "She's fine, just shaken," he said, glancing at his daughter. But his mind churned. How had this happened? He'd trusted the staff, trusted the system. His eyes flicked to the security console on the wall, its green light steady. He'd check the footage later. For now, Lily was all that mattered. Lena returned to the servants' quarters, peeling off her soaked uniform. She hung it to dry, her movements methodical, but her thoughts raced. The hairpin, the static, the coldness in Jack's eyes. She pulled a small notebook from her apron, its pages filled with neat, precise notes. August 3rd, 11:47 p.m. Kitchen light flickered twice. August 5th, front gate sensor tripped. No visitor logged. She added a new entry. August 7th, Lily's hairpin by the pool. Not there yesterday. Her pen paused. This wasn't just a house. It was a puzzle, and she was beginning to see its pieces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the estate, Lena closed her notebook. She wasn't just a maid. She was a witness, a keeper of secrets this mansion didn't yet know it held. And she would watch silently until the truth surfaced. The Sullivan mansion's silence was louder than its echoes, a weight that pressed against Lena Jones as she moved through its polished corridors the next morning. She carried a tray of coffee to Jack Sullivan's study, her steps measured, her eyes scanning for the smallest irregularities. A vase turned slightly askew, a curtain pulled an inch too far. Yesterday's chaos at the pool lingered in her mind, not for Jack's harsh words, but for the hairpin she'd found, its delicate curve out of place. She'd added it to her mental tally, another tick in the mansion's unsteady rhythm. Jack sat at his mahogany desk, his face haggard, the lines around his eyes deeper than usual. Lily was upstairs, tucked in bed after the doctor's visit, her small frame still shaken but unharmed. He'd spent the night replaying the incident, his guilt a tight knot in his chest. He'd been too quick to judge Lena, too consumed by fear to see the truth. The security footage would clear things up. He opened his laptop, pulling up the camera feed from the pool. Lena knocked softly, entering with the tray. "Your coffee, Mr. Sullivan," she said, her voice even, betraying none of the tension from yesterday. She set the cup down, her movements precise, but her gaze flicked to the laptop screen, catching a glimpse of the frozen frame. Lily by the pool, moments before the fall. Jack's eyes met hers, softer now, tinged with regret. "Lena," he began, his voice rough. "About yesterday, I was out of line. I saw the footage. You saved her." He paused, rubbing his temple. "I'm sorry." Lena nodded, her expression unreadable. "Lily's safe. That's what matters." She turned to leave, but Jack's voice stopped her. "Wait, there's something else." He gestured to the screen, rewinding the footage. The camera glitched. 3 minutes of static right before she fell. Ever seen that before? Lena's pulse quickened, but her face remained calm. She stepped closer, studying the screen. The timestamp showed 3:42 p.m., then nothing but gray noise until 3:45 p.m., when Lily was already in the water. Not the first time, she said quietly. She reached into her apron, pulling out a small leather-bound notebook. May I? Jack frowned but nodded, curiosity overriding his skepticism. Lena opened the notebook, revealing pages of meticulous entries in her tight, careful script. July 14th, 2:03 a.m. East wing motion sensor triggered, no one present. July 29th, 9:15 p.m. Static on front gate camera, 5 seconds. She flipped to a recent page. 17 anomalies in the last month. Lights flickering, sensors tripping, cameras glitching. Small things, but they add up. Jack leaned forward, his coffee forgotten. 17? Why didn't you say anything? I'm the help, Mr. Sullivan, Lena said, her tone matter-of-fact but edged with something sharper. You don't pay me to report glitches, but I notice them. She closed the notebook, her dark eyes steady. My father was a watchmaker. He taught me that a machine only works if every gear is perfect. A house like this, it's a machine too, and something's wrong with it. Jack stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. He'd dismissed her as just a maid, but this was something else. You're saying someone's tampering with my systems? His voice was low, almost a growl, but not directed at her now. I'm saying it's not random, Lena replied. The hairpin I found by the pool, it wasn't Lily's. Too ornate, not her style. Someone was there before she fell. Jack's jaw tightened. He stood, pacing to the window, the sprawling estate stretching out below. His empire was built on control, on knowing every detail. Yet here was a woman he barely knew seeing things he'd missed. Why do you notice these things, Lena? What's your story? She hesitated, her fingers brushing the notebook's edge. I learned to watch because I had to. Details keep you alive when no one else is looking out for you. Her voice was steady, but a flicker of something, pain perhaps, crossed her face. You want to know what's happening in this house? Start with the cameras. Jack nodded slowly, his mind racing. I'll have the system checked. But Lena, if you see anything else, you tell me, directly. She gave a single nod, tucking the notebook away. I will. As she left the study, her steps were as silent as ever, but her mind churned. The hairpin, the static, the mansion's uneasy pulse. They weren't accidents. Someone was playing a game, and she was already steps ahead. Upstairs, Lily stirred in her bed, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She'd told no one about the whisper she'd heard by the pool, a soft voice urging her to chase the butterfly. It wasn't real, she told herself, but her small hands trembled. She didn't see Lena pass by her door, didn't know the maid's sharp eyes had already caught the shadow of something sinister. In his study, Jack replayed the footage again, the static taunting him. He thought of Lily's frightened eyes, of Lena's notebook, of the empire he'd built that now felt like a house of cards. He didn't know who to trust. His longtime partner, Leo Fisher, with his slick smiles. His loyal butler, Samuel Finch, is always hovering. But Lena, the silent observer, had earned a sliver of his faith. As night fell, the mansion's chandeliers cast fractured light across the halls, and Lena added another note to her book. August 8th, 9:22 a.m. Static confirmed on pool camera. 3 minutes. Hairpin origin unknown. She closed it, her resolve hardening. Whatever was breaking this house, she'd find it. And when she did, no amount of wealth or power would hide the truth. The Sullivan mansion pulsed with a quiet menace, its grand halls masking a growing unease that Lena Jones felt in her bones. She moved through the kitchen, preparing Lily's breakfast tray, her hands steady but her mind racing. The hairpin, the static, the whisper Lily hadn't yet confessed. These were pieces of a puzzle she was determined to solve. Outside, the morning mist clung to the estate's manicured lawns, shrouding the world in gray. Lena's eyes flicked to the security panel by the door, its green light steady but untrustworthy. Upstairs, Jack Sullivan sat at his desk, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice clipped. Yes, Leo, I'll handle it. But these numbers don't add up. His partner, Leo Fisher, had been pushing for a risky merger, his emails flooding Jack's inbox with promises of profit. But Jack's focus was elsewhere, on the 3-minute glitch Lena had flagged on the hairpin she'd mentioned. He'd called a technician to check the cameras, but doubt gnawed at him. Was it sabotage? And if so, who? Lena knocked lightly, entering with the tray. Lily sat on the couch, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, her blue eyes distant. Pancakes, sweetheart, Lena said softly, setting the tray on the coffee table. Lily offered a small smile, but her fingers fidgeted, betraying her unease. Lena crouched beside her voice low. You feeling okay, Lily? The girl nodded, then hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. Lena, there was a voice by the pool. It told me to chase the butterfly. Her eyes darted to her father, who was still on the phone, oblivious. Lena's heart skipped. She kept her face calm, but her mind sharpened. A voice? Can you tell me more? Lily shook her head, clutching the rabbit tighter. Lena didn't push. She knew fear could lock a child's words away. You're safe now, she murmured, squeezing Lily's hand. I'm here. Jack ended his call, his gaze shifting to Lena. Everything all right? He asked, his tone softer than before, the edge of yesterday's anger gone. Lily's just shaken, Lena said, standing. She didn't mention the whisper. Not yet. Jack needed facts, not fears, and she needed time to connect the dots. I'll check on her later. Jack nodded, his eyes lingering on his daughter. Guilt twisted in his chest. He'd been too buried in work, too distant. Lena, keep an eye on her today. No more risks. His voice was firm but carried a trace of trust, a shift from the man who'd lashed out by the pool. As Lena left the study, her notebook weighed heavily in her apron. She added a new entry. August 8th, 10:15 a.m., Lily reports a voice by the pool, urging her to chase a butterfly. Source unknown. The whisper was no accident. It was deliberate, a mind game aimed at a child. Someone was targeting not just Jack, but Lily, and that made Lena's blood run cold. Downstairs, the mansion buzzed with routine, but Lena saw cracks in the facade. Samuel Finch, the butler, polished silver in the dining room, his movements stiff, his eyes avoiding hers. She'd always found him loyal but reserved. Now his silence felt heavier. Leo Fisher was due to visit later, his sleek confidence a contrast to Samuel's quiet deference. Lena's instincts told her to watch them both. In his office, Jack opened his laptop only to find an email he didn't remember sending. A proposal marked urgent, riddled with errors that could tank his company's stock. What the hell, he muttered, checking the sent folder. Another email, another mistake, all under his name. His pulse quickened. He wasn't this careless. Someone was messing with his systems, his reputation. Lena's words echoed. It's not random. He stood, pacing, his mind racing. Leo had been pushing harder lately, his smiles too smooth, his suggestions too bold. And Samuel, always present, always watching. Jack's trust in his inner circle was fraying. He needed to play this smart, not tip his hand. Lena's notebook, her quiet vigilance, was his only anchor. Lena, meanwhile, slipped into the security room, her presence unnoticed by the staff. She scanned the camera logs, her fingers tracing timestamps. Another glitch. 2 seconds on the East Wing camera last night. She noted it, her jaw tight. Someone was moving through this house unseen, unheard, but not by her. That afternoon, Leo Fisher arrived, his tailored suit and easy grin filling the room. Jack, you look like hell, he said, clapping Jack's shoulder. Rough night? His tone was light, but his eyes lingered too long, searching for weakness. Just business, Jack replied, forcing a smile. He'd decided to play along, to act rattled as Lena had suggested over breakfast. These damn emails keep disappearing. Think I'm losing it. He watched Leo closely, catching the faint smirk that flickered across his face. Take a break, man, Leo said, his voice dripping with false concern. Let me handle the merger details. He leaned closer, his tone conspiratorial. You're spread too thin, Jack. Trust me. Jack nodded, his expression weary but his mind sharp. He was acting now, a performance to draw Leo out. Lena, passing by with a tray, caught his eye, a brief, knowing glance. They were allies now, bound by suspicion. That evening, Lena sat with Lily in her room, reading a story. The girl's voice was small. Lena, the voice, it said Daddy doesn't love me. Her words hit like a punch. Lena's eyes narrowed, her resolve hardening. This wasn't just sabotage, it was cruelty, aimed at a child's heart. She tucked Lily in, promising, "No one will hurt you, Lily, not while I'm here." As she left, she added another note. August 8th, 6:47 p.m. Lily reports voice claiming, "Daddy doesn't love me." Psychological manipulation confirmed. The mansion's shadows seemed to deepen. But Lena wasn't afraid. She was watching, waiting, and the truth was closer than anyone knew. The Sullivan Mansion's grandeur felt like a mask, its polished surfaces hiding a pulse of deceit that Lena Jones could almost hear. She moved through the servants' quarters, her apron crisp despite the late hour, her notebook tucked close. Lily's whispered confession about the voice, cruel words sowing doubt about her father, had sharpened Lena's focus. Someone wasn't just tampering with cameras. They were weaving a web around this family, and she was determined to cut through it. By midnight, the mansion was still, its chandeliers dimmed to a faint glow. Lena's shoes made no sound as she slipped down the east wing, her eyes scanning for the smallest tells. A door ajar, a shadow out of place. She'd narrowed her suspicions to two men, Leo Fisher, with his slick charm and hungry eyes, and Samuel Finch, the butler whose loyalty seemed frayed by fear. Tonight she'd find answers. Samuel's office, a small room off the kitchen, was her target. Lena had noticed his unease earlier, his hands trembling as he poured Leo's coffee during the man's visit. She eased the door open, the lock yielding to a hairpin she'd repurposed, a trick from her father's watchmaking tools. Inside, the room smelled of old books and wax polish. She moved swiftly, her fingers tracing the desk's drawers. The top one held pens, receipts, nothing unusual. The bottom was locked. Her pulse quickened, but her hand stayed steady. She worked the hairpin into the lock, feeling the tumblers click. The drawer slid open, revealing a burner phone, its screen dark, but its presence screaming guilt. Lena powered it on, her breath shallow. A single text thread appeared from an unnamed number. "Get the merger files tonight. No mistakes, Finch. You know what's at stake." Another earlier. "The girl's an easy target. Keep her scared." Lena's stomach twisted. Lily's voice wasn't a ghost. It was a plan. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Lena froze, her heart hammering. She snapped the phone off, sliding it back into the drawer just as the door creaked. She dove behind a heavy curtain, the velvet swallowing her silhouette. Samuel entered, his face pale, his eyes darting. He clutched a phone, his usual one, not the burner, and dialed, his voice low but panicked. "Mr. Fisher, I can't keep doing this," he whispered. "The girl, she's just a child, and Sullivan's asking questions." Lena held her breath, her body pressed against the wall. Samuel's voice trembled. "If he finds out about my debt, my family, I'm trapped, Fisher." A pause, then a resigned, "Yes, sir, I'll get the files." He hung up, his shoulders sagging, and left, oblivious to Lena's presence. She waited, counting to 30, then slipped out, her mind racing. Samuel was a pawn, coerced by a secret debt, but Leo was the puppeteer, targeting Lily to break Jack. The burner phone was proof, but she needed more. Something undeniable. She returned to her quarters, adding to her notebook. August 8th, 11:58 p.m., burner phone in Finch's office. Text confirm Fisher's orders. Targeting Lily. Finch coerces, mentions debt. Her pen shook slightly, not from fear, but fury. No one hurt a child on her watch. In his study, Jack sat alone, the glow of his laptop casting shadows across his face. The technician's report had come in. The camera glitch wasn't a malfunction, but a deliberate loop, inserted to hide someone's presence. He rubbed his eyes, exhaustion warring with dread. Leo's visit today had left a sour taste. His partner's casual dismissal of the email errors felt too rehearsed. And Samuel, always hovering, had avoided his gaze. Jack's world, built on trust in his team, was cracking. He thought of Lena, her quiet certainty, her notebook of anomalies. She'd seen what he hadn't, and that stung. He opened the security logs again, cross-referencing dates from Lena's notes. Another glitch, 2 nights ago, on the garden camera. Someone was moving through his home, unseen. He needed to act, but rashness could tip his hand. Lena's suggestion to play along, to feign weakness, was starting to make sense. Upstairs, Lily slept fitfully, her dreams haunted by whispers she couldn't place. She clutched her rabbit, its worn fur a small comfort. The voice hadn't returned, but its echo lingered, telling her she wasn't enough for her father. She didn't hear Lena pause outside her door, checking the lock, ensuring her safety. The next morning, Lena served breakfast, her face a mask of calm. Samuel was in the dining room, setting plates, his eyes bloodshot. She watched him, noting the way he flinched when Jack entered. "Morning, Samuel," Jack said, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp. "Everything in order?" "Yes, sir," Samuel muttered, his voice tight. Lena caught the exchange, her mind filing it away. She served Jack his coffee, their eyes meeting briefly, a silent agreement to keep watching. As she cleared the table, Lena overheard Leo's voice on Jack's phone, scheduling another visit. "We'll finalize the merger tomorrow," Leo said, his tone smooth as oil. Jack agreed, his voice strained but convincing. Lena knew he was playing the part, buying time. She added another note. August 9th, 8:14 a.m., Fisher plans merger meeting. Finch's behavior erratic, likely under pressure. The game was escalating, and she was ready. The mansion's clocks ticked on, each second a step closer to truth or ruin. Lena's eyes, sharp as her father's finest tools, missed nothing. She was no longer just a maid, she was the shadow watching the shadows, and she would not blink. The Sullivan mansion's stillness was a lie. Its quiet halls thrumming with secrets, Lena Jones was unraveling, thread by thread. She stood in the pantry, ostensibly restocking supplies, but her mind was on the burner phone, its damning text branding Leo Fisher as the puppet master and Samuel Finch as his reluctant pawn. The knowledge burned in her chest, but she kept her face serene, her hands folding linens with practiced calm. Lily's whispered fears and Jack's fraying trust weighed on her. She had to act, and fast. In his study, Jack Sullivan leaned over a stack of papers, his jaw tight. The tampered emails, the camera glitches, Lena's notebook, they all pointed to a calculated assault on his life. Leo's voice still echoed from yesterday's call, slick with false concern, pushing for the merger that could sink Jack's empire. But Lena's warning had shifted something in him. He wasn't just a target now, he was a player, and he'd played to win. Lena knocked, entering with a tray of tea. "For you, Mr. Sullivan," she said, her voice steady, but her eyes held a question. Jack nodded, motioning her to close the door. The room felt smaller, the air thick with their shared secret. "We can't wait any longer," Jack said, his voice low. "Leo's moving too fast. We need to draw him out." He tapped a folder on his desk, labeled Merger Projections. "This is our bait, a fake report showing a catastrophic loss. If Leo's behind this, he'll want it to discredit me." Lena's lips curved slightly, approval in her gaze. "Smart, but it needs to be convincing. Samuel's the weak link. He's scared, not loyal to Fisher. Make him think it's urgent and he'll act." Jack leaned back, studying her. "You've thought this through." "My father fixed watches," Lena said, her tone matter-of-fact. "He taught me to find the weak gear and press it." She pulled out her notebook, flipping to a new page. "Put the folder somewhere Samuel can access. His office, maybe. I'll set up a camera to catch him." Jack nodded, a spark of respect in his eyes. "You're good at this, Lena. Too good for a maid." "I'm good at seeing what's in front of me," she replied, her voice soft but edged. "Let's do this tonight." By dusk, the plan was set. Jack left the fake folder in Samuel's office, its cover marked with bold red ink. Confidential, merger failure. He made a show of calling Leo from the dining room, his voice loud enough to carry. "I'm bringing in a cyber team tomorrow, Leo," he said, pacing. "Someone's screwing with my systems. I'm done playing nice." He hung up, catching Lena's eye across the room. She nodded, slipping away to rig a small camera behind a bookshelf in Samuel's office, its lens hidden in the shadows. Upstairs, Lily drew in her sketchbook, her crayons scratching softly. She hadn't mentioned the voice again, but her drawings, dark swirls around a stick figure girl, told Lena enough. The girl was scared, and Lena's resolve hardened. She checked on Lily, tucking a blanket around her. "Sleep tight, sweetheart," she whispered, her hand lingering on the girl's shoulder. Lily's small smile was a flicker of trust, one Lena vowed to protect. Midnight came, and the mansion held its breath. Lena watched from the servants' quarters, a laptop open to the camera feed. The screen glowed, showing Samuel's office, the folder glowing like a beacon on his desk. At 12:47 a.m., the door creaked open. Samuel slipped in, his face gaunt, his hands trembling as he glanced around. He hesitated, staring at the folder, then snatched it, stuffing it into his coat. He pulled out the burner phone, typing a quick message. Lena's screen captured every move, her heart steady but her eyes fierce. Jack, awake in his study, watched the same feed on his phone, his knuckles white. "Got you," he muttered, his voice a mix of triumph and betrayal. Samuel's actions confirmed Lena's suspicions, but the butler wasn't the mastermind. Leo was pulling the strings, and this footage was the noose. The next morning, Lena served breakfast, her demeanor unchanged despite the night's victory. Samuel was absent, his duties covered by another staff member. Jack caught her in the hall, his voice low. "It worked. We've got him on tape, but we need Fisher to make the next move." Lena nodded, her notebook updated. August 9th, 12:47 a.m. Finch took fake folder, sent message via burner phone. Camera feed secured. "Push Leo harder," she said. "Make him think you're cracking. He'll get sloppy." Jack's eyes narrowed, a grim smile forming. "You're wasted on housework, Lena." He paused, then added, "Thank you. For Lily, for this." She met his gaze, her expression unyielding. "I'm not doing this for thanks, Mr. Sullivan. I'm doing it for her." She turned, her steps silent, but her mind was loud with plans. Leo would come tomorrow, expecting a broken man. Instead, he'd face a trap. The mansion's clocks ticked on, their rhythm a countdown. Lena's eyes, sharp as ever, watched the shadows shift. She wasn't just a maid, she was a hunter now, and the prey was closer than it knew. The Sullivan mansion's opulence felt like a cage, its gleaming surfaces hiding a storm ready to break. Lena Jones moved through the breakfast service with her usual quiet grace, but her mind was ablade, sharpened by last night's victory. The camera footage of Samuel Finch stealing the fake merger folder was locked in Jack's safe, a weapon waiting to be wielded. Her notebook tucked in her apron held the latest entry. August 9th, 7:03 a.m., Finch confirmed as Fisher's pawn, awaiting next move. She poured coffee, her eyes flicking to Jack, who sat at the dining table, his face a mask of controlled strain. Jack sipped his coffee, his thoughts churning. The footage was damning, but Samuel wasn't the mastermind. Leo Fisher was. Jack had played the part of a crumbling man, his calls to Leo laced with feigned panic. But now he needed to strike. Lena's plan had worked flawlessly, and her quiet resolve anchored him. He caught her glance, a silent signal they were ready for the next step. After breakfast, Lena cleared the plates, her ears catching Samuel's heavy footsteps in the hall. The butler's face was ashen, his eyes darting like a trapped animal's. She followed him to the pantry, her voice low. "Mr. Sullivan wants to see you in his study, Samuel. Now." Her tone was neutral, but her gaze held a weight that made him flinch. In the study, Jack stood by the window, the morning light casting sharp shadows across his face. Lena stood by the door, her presence unobtrusive but unyielding. Samuel entered, his hands clasped tightly, his voice barely a whisper. "You wanted me, sir?" Jack turned, his eyes hard but not cruel. "Sit, Samuel. We need to talk." He gestured to a chair, his tone calm but laced with steel. "I know about the folder. I know about Leo." Samuel's face crumpled, his hands shaking. "Mr. Sullivan, I didn't want to." His voice broke, and he sank into the chair, his shoulders heaving. Lena stepped closer, her expression softening but her eyes sharp, watching every twitch. "Tell me everything," Jack said, leaning forward. "Not because I'm angry, Samuel, because I want to help you. But you have to be honest." Samuel's gaze darted between Jack and Lena, fear warring with resignation. "It's Fisher," he choked out. "He found out about my debt. Years ago, I borrowed to save my sister's house. He threatened to ruin her, to tell you I'd betrayed you. He made me tamper with emails, cameras. He told me to scare Lily, to make you doubt yourself." His voice cracked, tears welling. I didn't want to hurt her, sir. I swear. Lena's jaw tightened, her mind flashing to Lily's frightened eyes, the whispered voice by the pool. She spoke, her voice steady but cold. You sent those texts about Lily. You let him use her. It wasn't a question, but a blade, cutting through his excuses. Samuel nodded, his head bowed. I had no choice. He'd destroy my family. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the burner phone. Its screen cracked. Everything's here. Texts, calls. It's all him. Jack took the phone, his fingers brushing the cold plastic. You're giving me this because you know it's right, Samuel. We'll protect you, but you're done hiding. His voice was firm, a promise wrapped in resolve. Samuel nodded, tears falling, his confession a weight lifted, but a wound still raw. As Samuel left, Lena added to her notebook. August 9th, 10:22 a.m., Finch confesses. Burner phone secured, implicates Fisher. She looked at Jack. Leo's coming this afternoon. He'll push you harder now. Jack nodded, his eyes dark. Then we pushed back. Hours later, Leo Fisher strode into the mansion, his smile sharp as a razor. He found Lena in the library, dusting shelves, her presence seemingly invisible. Miss Jones, he said, his voice smooth. A word. He closed the door, his eyes glinting with calculation. From his coat, he produced a check, the amount enough to buy a small house. You see a lot, don't you? This is for your silence. Take it, and we're square. Lena set her cloth down, her gaze locking onto his. She took the check, studying it, then slid it back across the table, her voice low and unyielding. Your biggest mistake wasn't underestimating Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Fisher. It was underestimating me. Her words were a quiet thunder, her eyes burning with defiance. Leo's smile faltered, a crack in his armor. He leaned closer, his voice a hiss. You're playing a dangerous game, Maid. And you're losing it, Lena replied, her tone ice cold. She turned, resuming her dusting, dismissing him without a glance. Leo stormed out, his composure fraying, unaware that Lena's notebook now held another entry. August 9th, 2:17 p.m., Fisher attempts bribe, $250,000. Confidence slipping. Upstairs, Lily played with her dolls, her small voice humming a tune. Lena checked on her heart easing at the girl's tentative smile. You're safe, sweetheart, she murmured, brushing a curl from Lily's face. But the mansion's shadows loomed, and Lena knew the final act was near. Jack, in his study, reviewed the burner phone's texts, each one a nail in Leo's coffin. He looked at the merger folder, its lies now a weapon. Lena's words echoed. Leo was slipping, and they had him. The mansion's clocks ticked louder, counting down to the reckoning. Lena, ever watchful, was ready to see it through. The Sullivan mansion stood like a fortress under siege, its marble halls taut with anticipation. Lena Jones polished a vase in the foyer, her movements deliberate, but her eyes tracked every shadow. The burner phone, Samuel's confession, and Leo Fisher's failed bribe were locked in Jack's safe, a powder keg ready to ignite. Her notebook, hidden in her apron, bore a fresh entry. August 9th, 6:03 p.m. Fisher rattled after bribe attempt. Board meeting set for tonight. The air felt charged, as if the mansion itself awaited the storm's breaking. Jack Sullivan sat in his study, his fingers drumming on the desk. The board meeting, scheduled in hours, was his stage. He'd spent the morning reviewing the evidence. Lena's meticulous notes, the burner phone's texts, the footage of Samuel stealing the fake folder. Leo thought he'd broken him, but Jack was ready to turn the tables. Lena's quiet strength had steadied him, her plan a lifeline in the chaos. Lena slipped into the study, a tray of water in hand. Everything's set, Mr. Sullivan, she said, her voice low, steady. The projector's loaded with the footage. Samuel's ready to speak. Her eyes met his, a silent vow. They'd end this tonight. Jack nodded, his jaw tight. You've done more than I could have asked, Lena. When this is over, we'll talk about your place here. His tone carried a rare warmth, a crack in his guarded exterior. Lena's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Let's finish this first. She left, her steps silent, but her mind blazed with focus. Leo was coming, expecting a broken man. He'd find a reckoning instead. By evening, the boardroom buzzed with tension, its long mahogany table ringed by executives in tailored suits. Leo Fisher sat at one end, his smile polished but his eyes sharp, scanning Jack for weakness. Samuel stood by the door, his face pale but resolute, his confession a weight he was ready to shed. Lena lingered in the hall, her presence unnoticed, her notebook ready for one final entry. Jack stood, his voice steady but heavy. "Thank you for coming on short notice. I've been struggling. Mistakes, errors, doubts about my leadership." He paused, letting the words hang, watching Leo's smirk widen. "I thought about stepping down." A murmur rippled through the room. Leo leaned forward, his voice smooth. "Jack, you've carried this company far. Maybe it's time to rest." His tone dripped with false sympathy, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Jack's gaze hardened. "But then I found something." He clicked a remote, and the projector hummed to life. The screen lit up with Lena's notebook, its pages scanned and magnified. Dates, times, anomalies, meticulously logged. 17 glitches in a month. Cameras tampered, emails altered, my daughter targeted. His voice rose, edged with steel. "This wasn't an accident." The room fell silent. Leo's smile froze as the screen shifted to footage of Samuel in his office, stealing the fake folder. Then the burner phone's texts, stark and damning. "Get the merger files. Keep the girl scared." Gasps echoed. Samuel stepped forward, his voice trembling but clear. "It was Fisher. He blackmailed me. My sister's debt, my family's future. I had no choice." Leo shot to his feet, his face flushed. "This is absurd. You're framing me, Jack." His voice cracked, his composure slipping like sand through his fingers. Jack didn't flinch. "You thought I was weak, Leo. You thought you could break me, scare my daughter, steal my company." He played the final piece, a recorded call from Samuel's burner phone. Leo's voice clear. "Push him harder. He's cracking." The boardroom erupted in whispers, eyes turning to Leo, who stood rigid, cornered. "Security," Jack said, his voice calm but final. Two guards entered, their steps heavy. Leo's eyes darted, seeking an escape, but there was none. "You're done," Jack said, as the guards took Leo's arms, leading him out. His protests echoed down the hall, fading into silence. The board sat stunned, their faces a mix of shock and respect. Jack turned to the door, where Lena stood, her presence quiet but undeniable. "This is Lena Jones," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "Without her mind, her courage, we'd all be in the dark. She saw what no one else did." Heads turned, eyes widening at the maid in the doorway. Lena met their gazes, her expression steady, her strength unspoken but radiant. She didn't need their applause. She'd done this for Lily, for truth. Jack caught her eye, a nod of gratitude passing between them. As the board dispersed, Jack lingered, his shoulders lighter. "You changed everything, Lena," he said softly. "I owe you more than I can say." Lena shook her head, her voice firm. "You owe Lily a father. That's enough." She turned, her notebook still in her pocket, its work done for now. The mansion's air felt clearer, the shadows less oppressive, but Lena knew the scars of this fight would linger, and she'd watch for them, always. Upstairs, Lily slept, her dreams free of whispers, her rabbit tucked close. The mansion's clocks ticked softly, their rhythm steady at last. Lena's eyes, ever vigilant, saw the dawn breaking outside, a promise of peace, but she'd never stop watching. The Sullivan Mansion, once a labyrinth of cold marble and hidden threats, now hummed with a tentative warmth, its halls softened by the morning light. Lena Jones moved through the kitchen, preparing Lily's favorite blueberry muffins, her hands steady but her heart lighter. The boardroom showdown had stripped away the shadows, exposing Leo Fisher's treachery. He was gone, facing charges that would keep him caged for years. Samuel Finch, too, had stepped into the light, his confession earning him leniency and a chance to rebuild. Lena's notebook rested in her apron, its pages quiet for the first time in weeks. The final entry simple. August 10th, 6:14 a.m. Fisher arrested. Mansion secure. Jack Sullivan sat at the dining table, his usual stack of papers replaced by a single photo frame. Lily, smiling at last year's birthday party. The weight of his empire still pressed on him, but the fight to save it had shifted his gaze. He looked up as Lena entered, setting the muffins down. "Lily's still asleep," she said, her voice soft but warm. "She had a good night." Jack nodded, his eyes tracing the lines of exhaustion on Lena's face, now softened by a rare ease. "You gave her that," he said, his voice low. "You gave us both a chance to start over." He paused, leaning forward. "Lena, I've been thinking. You're wasted on housework. I want you in the company, head of security, operations, whatever you choose. Name your role." Lena's hand stilled on the tray, her dark eyes meeting his. The offer was generous, a door to a world she'd never sought. She thought of her father, his watchmaker's tools, his lessons about seeing the unseen. She'd come here to work, to survive, not to climb. But this house, this family, had become more. "I'm not built for boardrooms, Mr. Sullivan," she said, her tone firm but kind. "But I'll stay, manage the household, keep things steady, for Lily, for you." Jack's brow furrowed, but a smile broke through. "You're stubborn as hell, Lena Jones. But I respect it. You're family now, whether you like it or not." His words carried a weight, a promise beyond contracts or paychecks. Lena nodded, a flicker of warmth in her chest. "Family sounds good," she said, turning to clear the table. Her role was no longer just a maid's. She was a guardian, a friend, a quiet force holding this home together. Outside, the garden bloomed under the August sun, its roses vivid against the green. Lily ran through the grass, her laughter a melody that had been missing too long. Jack followed, his suit jacket discarded, his steps lighter than they'd been in years. Lena joined them, a basket of gardening tools in hand. "Look, Lily," she said, kneeling beside a rose bush. "You pinch the dead petals like this, gentle but sure. It helps the flower grow stronger." Lily mimicked her small fingers careful, her eyes bright with focus. "Like you helped us?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. Lena's breath caught, her hand pausing on a stem. She met Lily's gaze, seeing trust, not fear. "Something like that," she said, her smile soft but real. Jack watched, his heart swelling. He'd built an empire of steel and numbers. But this, his daughter's laughter, Lena's quiet strength, was his true wealth. They worked together, the sun warming their backs, the garden alive with color and sound. Lily planted a seedling, her hands clumsy but determined, while Lena guided her, her voice a steady hum. Jack knelt beside them, his fingers in the soil, a man remade by loss and redemption. "You're good at this, Lena," he said, glancing at her. "Teaching her, teaching me." Lena shrugged, brushing dirt from her hands. "It's just watching, Mr. Sullivan, seeing what needs fixing." Her eyes held his, a shared understanding passing between them. The mansion, once a cold machine, was a home again, its gears aligned by trust. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the estate, Lily ran ahead, chasing a butterfly, this time safely on the grass. Jack and Lena stood, watching her, the silence between them comfortable, not heavy. "Call me Jack," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "No more, Mr. Sullivan." Lena nodded, a small smile breaking through. "All right, Jack." The name felt new, a bridge built over weeks of secrets and battles. The mansion's clocks ticked softly, their rhythm no longer a warning, but a pulse of life. Samuel, starting anew in a quieter role, sent a letter of thanks, his words simple but sincere. Lena tucked it away, her notebook closed for now. She'd always watch, always see, but today she let herself feel the warmth of this moment, this family she'd helped save. Lily called out, waving a flower she'd picked. "For you, Lena!" she shouted, running back. Lena took it, her fingers brushing the petals, her heart full. The Sullivan mansion stood behind them, no longer a fortress of secrets, but a home reborn in light. And so the Sullivan mansion finds its peace, its shadows banished by Lena's unwavering gaze and Jack's rediscovered heart. What did you think of The Silent Observer? Did Lena's quiet strength steal your breath, or was it Jack's redemption that hit home? Maybe Lily's courage touched you most. Share your thoughts, your favorite moments, or where you're listening from. Day or night, near or far. Your voice keeps this story alive. Thank you for joining us on this journey through secrets and salvation. We're grateful for every second you've spent with us. Stay tuned for more tales that grip the soul. Until next time, keep watching the shadows. Who knows what truths you'll uncover?